Tenamwari. Be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe, Kudzai, Mudzimu, Mukuru. We give praises unto our great ancestors, because our ancestors are worthy to be praised. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. Tenamwari. Adifa, Ifa Womile. Tí ò lọ rí bàbá rẹ̀ ní ojú àlá. Ọ̀ní mo rí bàbá mi lọ́níyàn ìbá ẹ̀kùn. Bàbá tí ọ̀run wà gbẹ̀mí. Ìbá ọmọ kò ṣàì gbẹ ọmọ rẹ̀. Ìfàní ẹ̀ka bá gbé bàbá rẹ̀. Tí kò bá tọ́jú bàbá rẹ̀. Kò ní rẹ̀ ẹni tọ́jú ọ̀hún náà ní ayé. Ìfàní ọ̀rúbọ kí ọ̀ra rẹ́bàlẹ̀ ní ọ̀nà nǹkan eléyìí yóò bàjẹ́ pátápátá bí kò bá tọ́jú bàbá rẹ̀ yálà bí ó wà ní ọ̀run tàbí ní ayé. Ìbáṣe ègún àṣẹ. Ìbáṣe ègún àṣẹ. The teachings of Ifa were interpreted for Nwanmile, who would see his father in a vision. He said, I see my father today, father of the leopard. Father, come from heaven and help me. The father of a child should not fail to help his child. Ifa says someone has forgotten his father, and that if he does not take care of his father, he will not find anyone on earth to take care of him. Ifa says this person should sacrifice so that the way may be clear for him in his affairs. Indeed, something belonging to this person will be completely ruined if he does not care for his father, whether his father is in the spiritual realm or on earth. Such is the wisdom of Muzil Makuro, our great ancestors. Say hail to the power of the word.
Hail to the power of the word.
Tenamwari.
Tenamwari.
So this reading, brothers and sisters, is taken from the Odu Ifa. When they say Odu Ifa.
Odu Ifa.
The Odu Ifa is the collective term for the collated spiritual wisdom of our Yoruba ancestors. Odu Ifa is the substance of the divination process within what is referred to commonly as Ifa. But Ifa is really the name or referring to the divination process of our Yoruba ancestors. The spiritual system would more be properly called Isheshe. Everybody say Isheshe. Isheshe. Which, to cut a long story short, really means the source of our tradition or the tradition of our ancestors in action. That is a more proper term for the spiritual system of our Yoruba people, which is commonly referred to as Ifa. But as I've said, Isheshe is becoming a more popular terminology. Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
And within the Odu Ifa, there is a book called Ogbe Ironshun. Ogbe Ironshun. And this brings together two principles within the Isheshe cosmology. And Ogbe is a principle of light and spiritual growth, which is about the alignment with your destiny. Yes? Is everybody with me? Often referred to within the language as Ori. Ori is your head, your consciousness, your destiny. So Ogbe is about the principle of alignment with your destiny. And then you have Ironshu, which represents the ancestral inheritance and the fulfillment of your destiny as connected, the fulfillment of your potential as connected with your ancestral inheritance. Right. So within the principle of Ogbe Ironshu, we are bringing together a connection with our ancestors together with fulfilling our destiny, our purpose, our potential as individuals and as a collective. Are you with me? Yeah. Are you sure? Yeah. This is Shumira. African spiritual worship. So if we're not connecting with the spiritual wisdom of our ancestors, what are we doing here, brothers and sisters? Are you with me? Yeah. Are you sure? Yeah. So we see in the reading from Ogbe Iroshu that Onwanmile had a vision of his father. I was instructed, according to the teachings of Ifa, or Orunmila, which is the prophet of Ifa, to remember and care for his father. Care for his father, whether his father is with us on the physical plane, Aye, or with the ancestors in the spiritual realm, Oru. Is everybody with me? Yeah. And it says, someone has forgotten his father. Someone has forgotten. And as a result of forgetting the father, something belonging to this person will be completely ruined until he learns to care for his father. The term for leopard, you remember, it says Owumile's father is the father of the leopard. The word for leopard in Yoruba is Eku. Everybody say Eku. And in Yoruba cosmology, much like many other African cosmologies from the Nile Valley, Bakongo, Shona, Bemba, Zulu, you will notice that leopard skin is a symbol of authority within many African cultures. So when it says Onwanmile's father is the father of the leopard denotes leadership. The leopard, Eku, denotes bravery. Right. The leopard, Eku, denotes strength. Yeah. The leopard, Eku, denotes the capacity and the ability to overcome challenges. Yeah. So Onwanmile's father is the father of the leopard, meaning that his father mastered the attributes of the leopard. And Onwanmile, in caring for his father, will inherit the attributes of the leopard in the fulfillment of his own destiny or her own destiny. Tenamwari. So we are here in African Liberation Day month. In the year they call 2025. The centenary of Omowale Malcolm X, Papa Patrice Lumumba, yes. France Fanon. Three fathers of the African liberation fight. Born in the year 1925. What's the rundown? Omowale Malcolm X, the eldest of the three. Born on the 19th of May. In Omaha, Nebraska, United States of America. He rises to prominence as the national spokesperson of the Nation of Islam. We know that he was born to Garveyite parents, right. Who were attacked by the American state. Family was separated. Omowale Malcolm X ends up in a life of what he refers to as extreme delinquency, brothers and sisters, before coming across an organization whilst in prison called the Nation of Islam. Right. He rises to become the national spokesperson, charged with the responsibility of building the Nation of Islam across the United States of America. Mm-hmm. And it is said that wherever Omowale Malcolm X went, when he left a mosque or a temple behind him. Is everybody with me? Yeah. In every city that he visited on behalf of the Nation of Islam. That's right. Trouble ensues in the Nation of Islam. He leaves and begins two organizations. One is the Muslim Mosque Incorporated, and the second is the Organization of Afro-American Unity, which was the Black Nationalist Pan-Africanist organization that he was developing in the last year of his life. Papa Patrice Lumumba, born on the 2nd of July 1925. in Katakokombe, in the Kasai province, or what was then the Kasai province of the Congo, in the center of Mama Africa. He rises to prominence as the leader of the Mouvement National Congolese, the Congolese Nationalist movement. Papa Patrice Lumumba was born into what is referred to as the Evolué class in Belgian-ruled Congo. The Evolué class was the class of semi-elite Africans within nations that were colonized by French and Belgium and other French-speaking peoples. This was supposed to be the colonized elite that were being trained to do the bidding of the colonizer within the nation. The black bourgeoisie in terms. Tendamwari. But the importance of the MNC, the Mouvement National Congolese, is that whilst many of the other political formations in Congo were organized according to the people, the specific people, so-called tribe of each people group, the Mouvement National Congolese crossed every people group within the Congo. Is everybody with me? Yeah. So it was a movement that was actively combating what is commonly referred to as tribalism among African people. And so therefore, it had a mass appeal and won the election when it came from among the people. Papa Patrice Lumumba was the most popular leader of a movement in the Congo. Very important point. He aligns himself and the MNC with the broader Pan-Africanist movement in the Congo and throughout the world. Which is another very important point. And immediately has to contend with the forces of neocolonialism as they are attempting to be instituted on the African continent. Congo gets independent on the 30th of June. 10 days later, the Belgians invade the Congo from the Katanga province. And that sets off a chain of events that would eventually lead to the assassination of Papa Patrice Lumumba on the 17th of July, 1961. Tendamwani. Frantz Fanon, born 20th of July, 1925. In Fort de France, Martinique, another African who was born in that Evalué black bourgeoisie class in Martinique. He became a direct student of Aimé Césaire at secondary school. And for those who are unaware, Aimé Césaire is one of the founding fathers of a movement by the name of Negritude, the Negritude movement, yeah, which was a black consciousness movement in the French-speaking African world. Tendamwani. He joins, as a part of this Evolué class, joins the French military and fights in World War II, Mass European Tribal War II. And whilst he is fighting for the French in Mass European Tribal War II against the Nazis, led by Hitler, he writes a letter back to his brother, telling his brother, please, if I die on this battlefield, do not claim or tell anybody that I died fighting any great cause. Why? This African who was sent to fight the Nazis on behalf of the French during the war, the reality of French colonization, racism and white supremacy was laid bare for him. And so he realized that the French were no better than the Germans that they were fighting. Said to his brother, Don't tell nobody. In the Creole, when they speak in Martinique, we can't speak it, so we have to just substitute the patois. Don't tell nobody. Say, when me a fight for around here, is anything good? Is everybody with me? So the shackles of colonization are being steadily broken in the minds of Frantz Fanon. He leaves the army, goes to France to study medicine and psychiatry, becomes a psychiatrist. And while he's studying psychiatry in France, University of Lyon, there are people from Algeria who are also studying in France. And a particular mental illness is discovered among these Algerians who are studying in France. And through his own research, Baba Frantz Fanon discovers and comes to the conclusion and writes a paper to the effect that a significant reason for this particular mental illness among these Algerians is the fact of and the impact of colonialism upon them. So he becomes a pioneer in the field of what is called sociotherapy. Therapy that includes and considers the culture from which the people come that you are providing the service for. He becomes, I will say it again, he becomes a pioneer in the field of sociotherapy, whereby the culture of the people who you are providing the service of therapy for becomes an integral part of the process of therapy. Is everybody with me? He's among the early pioneers to discover and engage mental health as it relates to the colonial process. That colonization has a mental health impact upon African people. He becomes a pioneer in that study. He moves to Algeria in 1953 and in 1954 joined the Front de Libération Nationale, the FLN, which was the anti-colonial movement in Algeria fighting against French colonization. He dies of leukemia in 1961, and I'm going to come back to that. Let's identify two fundamental aspects of this triple centennial celebration. The first is that each of these three men born in 1925 died young. We know that Omowale Malcolm X was assassinated. We know that Papa Patrice Lumumba was assassinated. It is said that Frantz Fanon died of leukemia. Well, there's more to that story, brothers and sisters. Frantz Fanon, after being diagnosed with leukemia, sought treatment in a few different places. And one of the places that he was advised to seek treatment was in the United States of America. And it is known that at least one of his doctors was a CIA agent. And the narrative associated with what happened here is that he was left in a hotel room for a significant period of time while the leukemia took hold of his body. And the treatment only began after that particular period, brothers and sisters. Too late to save his life. So even though the cause of his death may have been leukemia, there was much more going on that resulted in the passing of Frantz Fanon. But why is it important for us to remember these three men in 1925, the centenary of their birth? Remember the words of our Odu, that Unwanmile had forgotten his father. And as a result of forgetting his father, he was experiencing strife in his life and would continue to until he not only remembered his father, but took care of his or her father. Another ancestor that I always like to hail up during the month of African Liberation Day is a man by the name of Baba Kwame Ture. And he is significant because he is a significant reason for why we celebrate African Liberation Day in the first place. 1963, the OAU designated African Liberation Day as an annual event that was designed towards the continued decolonization process of the African continent. But that was when Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah was on the scene, Sekou Touré was on the scene, Modibo Keita was on the scene. And they were battling some neo-colonial forces on the African continent. But when all of those three were taken out and more, Baba Kwame Ture was important in making African Liberation Day a grassroots observance. That it was no longer a celebration for heads of state and governments to talk to each other, but for grassroots organizations to continue organizing work. Is everybody with me?
Yes.
And Baba Kwame Ture teaches us that the job of the oppressor is to make you think the oppressed and the oppressor have the same history.
That's right.
The job of the oppressor is to make you think that the oppressor and the oppressed have the same history. The job of the colonizer is to make you think that the colonizer and the colonized have the same history. To keep us worshipping and valorizing the ancestors of other people. So that our fathers are no longer Malcolm X and Papa Garvey. Our fathers are now George Washington and Oliver Cromwell. Our fathers are no longer Patrice Lumumba and Frantz Fanon. Our fathers become Winston Churchill and Ronald Reagan. The job of the colonizer is to make you think that the oppressed and the oppressor have the same history. The importance of remembering our ancestors, particularly in African Liberation Day month, is that we reconnect ourselves, as Ogbe Iroshun advises us. When we align with our ancestors, we realign ourselves with our own destiny and the fulfillment of our own potential. And in African Liberation Day month, it is important for us to assert the fact that we should not be ashamed of hailing our ancestors. We should not be ashamed of venerating our ancestors for their good and their bad. For better or for worse. In sickness and in health. For richer or for poorer. And even in death, we shall never part from our ancestors. Even when they make mistake, we shouldn't be ashamed of hailing our ancestors. If Britain, if Winston Churchill can institute policies during mass European tribal war II that deliberately starve the people of India to the point whereby over 3 million of them die. And just a few years ago, the British public vote Winston Churchill the preeminent Britain of the 21st century. If Britain can hail Churchill, then we can hail Papa Garvey. In spite of the fact that the Black Star Line went bankrupt. You following me? If George Washington can be an enslaver of African people. And today he is celebrated as a founding father of the United States of America, then we can hail Kwame Nkrumah.
That's right.
In spite of the fact that the cocoa crop crashed in the last year of his presidency. Are you following me, brothers and sisters? That we can own our ancestors, even with their mistakes. And a part of the way they seduce us into adopting their ancestors as our own is to convince us that there is no value in the legacies of our ancestors. That they were failures to a person, to a man, to a woman. Are you with me?
Yes.
Let us remember our ancestors. And what happens when Winston Churchill and George Washington and Adam Smith and Oliver Cromwell and Ronald Reagan becomes the ancestors who we align with, we begin to fulfill the destiny of the descendants of those people against our own. So we become agents of the interest of Britain and America and France and Belgium, who have been historically colonizers of African people. Historically and currently. I take your point. Stand corrected. The remembrance of our own ancestors aligns us with the historic missions of our ancestors and gives us information that is vital for us fulfilling that mission. And an example of this is, it is African Liberation Day month, 25th of May. The AU, as Elder Pepekai mentioned earlier, has now redigged the thing, take the liberation out of the day, and call it Africa Day. So we no longer need to be concerned with liberation. Yeah? This is not a consideration for us anymore. We don't need to have a consideration for liberation anymore, apparently, as African people. Well, let us remind ourselves what liberation is, as far as African Liberation Day is concerned. By liberation, we mean the acquisition of the power to be masters of our own destiny. This means to have control over every aspect of our lives, with the capacity to define, defend, and develop ourselves, thus becoming masters of our own destiny. By liberation, we don't simply mean independence, democracy, equality, integration, assimilation, reform, anti-apartheid, anti-colonialism, anti-slavery, abolition, civil rights, human rights, etc., etc., etc.
Oh, you missed one, diversity.
No, it's all there, my sister. It's all there. Yeah, it's all there. We don't simply mean these things when we are discussing liberation. These are all euphemisms, brothers and sisters. Some of them is good stuff. Some of them, yeah, like anti-colonialism, is good stuff. We don't want to be colonized. Anti-apartheid is good movements. We don't want apartheid. Abolition, especially when it comes to slavery and colonialism, is good movements. But it is they're all goals that fall short of the goal of liberation. And our ancestors, like Omowale Malcolm X, Patrice Lumumba, and Frantz Fanon, stand to remind us of what liberation is. 3 euphemisms, brothers and sisters, that they use nowadays popularly as a replacement for the concept of liberation is democracy. Review any election on the African continent or in the Caribbean. You got 15 different candidates, all vying for government, and the key consideration is we have to demonstrate the strength of our democracy. Yes? Then you have development, a term that is designed, the key indicators of development are defined by institutions like the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the World Trade Organization, which are all neo-colonial institutions. Then you have globalization, where the world is being made into a global community through new technology, such as social media. Right. But the issue, brothers and sisters, is that a connection with our ancestors would allow us to see through the machinations of this diversion. For example, Frantz Fanon, in the book Wretched of the Earth, says the following: we now know that in the first phase of the national struggle, attempts to diffuse nationalist demands by manipulating economic doctrine. So in place of our revolutionary agenda, they're going to give us an economic doctrine. Is everybody with me? At the first signs of a dispute, colonialism feigns comprehension. Yes? By acknowledging with ostentatious humility that the territory is suffering from serious underdevelopment that requires major social and economic reforms. How does this look today, brothers and sisters? It looks like the problem that you have is not neocolonialism. It's not the exploitation of African land, labor, and resources. The problem that you have is that your first group of leaders were socialists. That's the problem. That is the problem. Yeah. And as a reflection of their socialism, they failed to institute good economic policy. Yes, that's one of the claims that they make. Therefore, because you lot are too busy hailing up Malcolm X and Fanon and Lumumba and Nkrumah and Namzama Madikizela Winnie Mandela, you're following the wrong leaders. That you should replace an appreciation for those leaders with Winston Churchill and Ronald Reagan. And if you need somebody black, choose not Kwame Nkrumah, but Houphouët Boigny, president of Côte d'Ivoire, who was a French puppet. Choose Seretse Khama, who became president of Botswana and made Botswana a haven for the De Beers diamond mining company in the midst of apartheid. Choose Ouattara, current president of Côte d'Ivoire, French puppet. Choose Nelson Mandela. Choose Barack Obama. Because the issue, brothers and sisters, that you're having is not neocolonial exploitation of Africa, the Caribbean, and African people, wherever we are. The problem is too much government regulation. That your governments have too many rules for governing the economy. That's the real problem. So in order to solve the problem, what you need is the free market. The open and free market, which is another euphemism. What free market means is leave your market open and free for us to come in and thief from you. That's what that means. Yeah? Free up your market for our exploitation. That's what free market means. Yeah? I will take it for free. Yes? That's what free market means. I want you to understand what I'm saying, brothers and sisters, because these are the critical buzz terms of the moment, of the now, through which they are attempting to seduce African people away from a liberation agenda inspired by our own ancestors.
That's right.
Activism becomes replaced with good business practice.
Yeah.
Grassroots organizations are replaced with non-governmental organizations attached to the United Nations.
That's right.
Oh, not hear me, I say.
Yeah.
All of this is because we have forgotten our own ancestors.
That's right.
And the fruits of that amnesia are manifesting themselves across the black world in this day and age. But when we remember Omowale Malcolm X, when we remember Papa Patrice Lumumba, when we remember Frantz Fanon, leaders who were fearless in their capacity and their will to confront the forces of oppression, we are informed on a deeper level about how to address those forces, and we are reminded of the concept of liberation. Now, as a student of Mama Marimba Annie, she teaches that we have to be a bit more specific when we say liberation. We have to understand exactly what we mean by liberation. And she defines it as world African sovereignty. She says, without our cultural and historical connection, we are not a people. Remember now, a people are a people through a connection to their ancestors.
Right, yeah.
Britain is Britain because they valorize Oliver Cromwell and Henry VIII.
That's right.
And Churchill.
Yeah.
What makes you an American is your adherence and your willingness to involve and pursue the vision of the founding fathers of America. A people are a people through a connection to their ancestors.
Right.
And Mama Marimba teaches that that connection is the basis of our sovereignty as a people. And she defines sovereignty as our self-governance. We rule ourselves. Self-reliance. We rely upon ourselves. Self-determination. Economic independence.
Right.
And self-defense.
Yeah.
She goes on. Sovereignty is the power to exact sanctions. If you come fast with me, you're going to know what I'm going.
That's right.
The power to protect our children. The power to say never again. And to back it with might. The power of governance without interference. Una can't come tell we what laws should be running our country. Una can't come tell we whether to apply tariffs or take off tariffs. Una can't come tell we whether the oil should cost this or that much. Una can't come tell we what to do with the cocoa or the mango. I feel it. So we decide for ourselves. The power to do ma'at, truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, balance, reciprocity, and order, and to seek the vindication of ourselves and our ancestors. An example of this, brothers and sisters, if we study our history, particularly the history of the ancestors that we are focusing on today. As I've already said, Congo independence, June the 30th, 1960. 10 days later, Belgium invades. The following day, the 11th of June, a man by the name, the 12th of June, Yes, the 12th of June. July.
Yes, June 30, July.
January. A man by the name of Moise Tshombe in the Katanga province of Congo announces his cessation, and the cessation of Katanga, the Katanga province, from the broader Congo. Katanga was the center, the place where the Shinkolombe mine was situated, which contains many minerals, including uranium, which is very important in relation to atomic and nuclear technology, as well as tin and copper and many other minerals. The day after he made that announcement, the number one mining company, Union Miniere, in Congo, sent $1 billion, Belgian francs, into his own personal bank account. Are you with me? A little while later, another French puppet who was the president of the nation, remember Papa Patrice Lumumba was the prime minister, dismisses Lumumba from the government. Cut a long story short, Lumumba is able to defeat that particular ploy in the government house. The United Nations are brought in because Belgium has invaded. Congo does not have the military might to withstand a Belgian invasion, so they seek support. And Papa Ancestral Kwame Nkrumah advises Lumumba to go and seek the assistance from the United Nations. Why? Because Russia was the other possible support mechanism, but it's the midst of the Cold War, where Russia is fighting America, and it would incur the wrath of America if he goes to Russia for support. Papa Patrice Lumumba tries America, it don't work. So he goes to the United Nations, and the United Nations send a force, but the United Nations force is majority made up of Africans from different African nations. If you understand where the United Nations gets its troops from, they source their troops from member nations. And so it was felt that because the troops on the ground would be African, for the most part, that the leaders of the various nations would have some say in terms of what the troops do. What happens, however, is that the United States of America, in particular, has a stronghold over the United Nations and begin to direct the troops to work against the interest of Lumumba in the Congo. They enter the Congo, occupy every province in the Congo except for Katanga, where Shombe's troops are. They begin to disarm the troops of the Congolese National Army. Is everybody with me? Yeah. This is important. Why? One of the things that Omowale Malcolm X became known for is his advocacy of self-defense. Mm-hmm. And they promoted him as this violent individual because he defended the principle of Africans defending ourselves. The white world at this time is very organized against the work of Frantz Fanon at the moment, because the first chapter in his book, The Wretched of the Earth, on violence, addresses the fact that colonialism is a violent reality, and that the people who are colonized will have to engage that violence with self-defense if we are going to liberate ourselves. So now, he is being paraded across the world as a preacher of violence. And the reason is because they never want African people in a position whereby we are able to militarily defend the gains that we make through our movement. Lumumba in the Congo, trying all these strategies to withstand the onslaught of the neo-colonial agenda, realizing that the United Nations is just as corrupt as Belgium and France and Britain, that America is just as corrupt as the whole of them. So now what do? He calls a conference in the month of Messiah, August, in 1960, the All African People's Conference. And one of the items on the agenda is to discuss military cooperation among African nations. At that conference, brothers and sisters, Ancestral Kwame Nkrumah, whose troops from Ghana are operating in Congo under the auspices of the United Nations, alongside Secretary in Guinea, promise to withdraw their troops from the United Nations institution and place them under the governance of Patrice Lumumba. The problem is that most of the rest of the neo-colonial puppet leaders didn't agree to the program. So it was felt best to try and still work within the auspices and have some impact upon what was taking place. But behind the scenes, Nkrumah and Lumumba signed an agreement for Congo to join a union of African states. Is everybody with me? Yeah. At the same time, the pro-Lumumba forces are organizing outside of the capital, which is called Leopoldville at that time, in another province called Stanleyville. And they're organizing a military onslaught, and they begin to get some gains against the neo-colonial forces. What turns the tide? The United Nations move against the military, the Lumumba forces. Later on, America itself sends troops into the Congo. Is everybody with me? So there was a point at which, brothers and sisters, what they were doing with Congo, Ghana, Guinea, and Mali at that time was creating the embryo for an African military high command that was designated to defend the anti-colonial process on the African continent. Today, brothers and sisters, we have a high command in Africa, but it's not an African military high command. It's called the US Africa High Command. And many of us will be aware of the fact that the African world has been in uproar in the last month or so because one General Michael Langley, head of the US Africa High Command, AFRICOM, ventured to accuse Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, of stealing from the gold industry to enrich himself and the government of Burkina Faso. And brothers and sisters, some of us as Pan-Africanists are skeptical of the alliance of the Sahel. Some of us are cautiously optimistic. Some of us are 10 toes deep down supporting the thing 100%. There are differences. Yeah, somebody want to share that everything is in the room right now. There are differences among Pan-Africanists on these issues. Yeah. But one thing that was clear is that when General Michael Langley opens his mouth to spew that propaganda, we know what that is. We know that a narrative is being generated to justify military incursion in what, on the face of it at least, looks like a revolution in the making. And I'm very glad, brothers and sisters, that Africans all across the continent and diaspora decided that we're not having this at this moment in time. That whatever your particular view on Traore is, when a US general opens his mouth in such a way, it is our duty to defend the thing. No questions asked. So we give thanks for the mobilization of African people at this moment in time. But notice, I said mobilization. I didn't say organization. And Papa Kwame Ture advises us to understand the difference between mobilization and organization. Listen, brothers and sisters. When General Michael Langley opened his mouth, he wasn't just speaking willy-nilly. He wasn't even speaking to the press. He was speaking before the Senate Arms Committee of the United States government. This was a representative of an institution speaking to an institution to whom he is accountable. What is said at the Senate Armed Forces Committee contributes to the policy, the military foreign policy of the United States of America. Y'all hear what I'm saying? This is where what America does in the world is going to be decided. We're not going to defeat AFRICOM with a mass mobilization across the African world. Good as it is. It's a good start.
Yeah.
But if we stay at that level, they will come and take out Traore.
That's right.
Like they took out Lumumba, Omowale, and Fanon.
That's right.
The charge of Beiroshu is that we must remember our father and take care of him.
That's right.
Remember our father and take care of him, that our matter, our affairs will become successful.
That's right. That's right.
So therefore, we are charged with the responsibility of not allowing Omowale Malcolm X, France Fanon, Lumumba, Traore to become revolutionary mascots through whom we live vicariously in revolutionary fervor, waiting for them to do the work that we ourselves have not decided to do.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
I tell you this, brothers and sisters, however great Traore is, Goita is, they are not going to do it by themselves.
That's right. That's right.
And they're going to need more than our chance of no justice, no peace.
That's right.
Hands off, allies to the Sahel. Do not look at Traore as the revolutionary who's going to do your work for you. If he is indeed a revolutionary, he will do his work.
That's right.
Align with your own ori.
Come on.
That's right.
And ask yourself, what is the work that I need to be doing in this moment at this time? What organizational formation do I need to be involved in
That's right.
that will protect this revolution in the making, if it is indeed
That's right.
a revolution in the making? And when we do so, brothers and sisters, we will find much inspiration from our ancestors. In order to do it properly, we have to connect properly with our ancestors. Every year, and I'm moving to the close, every year, Mama Marimba Ani hosts a ritual called Abakosem Sunsum. Abakosem is the narrative of our ancestors. Sunsum is the spirit in the Twi language. So loosely translated, it's referred to as the spirit of our history. Yes?
Yeah.
And I was speaking to Mama, and I said to her that I wanted to speak on this in the message, and I asked her, how much am I allowed to say? She said, I can say everything. Yeah? But I had in asking her this question, I had a slide already prepared to explain what Abakosem is. And she sent me a message after I had asked her this question. I had to replace my slide to bring you what she actually said to me in the moment. She says, at Abakosem Sumsum, not only do we remember our ancestors, but we become our ancestors. We become our ancestral selves. And in the case of the warrior ancestors, we actually can help them to fulfill their mission for our people. You see, when she sent me this message, I had already decided that Iroshu was going to be the Odu that guides the message. She says, in the case of our warriors, we actually help them, we take care of them, and help them to fulfill their mission for our people as we become possessed by their African revolutionary spirit energy, and we devote our lives to bring about the victory that they sacrificed for. Yeah, you need some context. You need some context. You have to know what I go on. Last year, brothers and sisters, the Bakosem Sum, I had the pleasure of attending the Bakosem last year. And every year, we are literally visited by our ancestors, as guided by the spirit of Baba John Henrik Clark. Baba John Henrik Clark visits us, yes? And through Baba John Henry Clark, we are introduced to a number of different ancestors. Yeah, generally, Papa Garvey is there. Yeah, sometimes Omowale Malcolm X is there. Sometimes Amilcar Cabral is there. Sometimes Cecile Fatiman is there. Sometimes Dendara of Palmares, Brazil, is there. Literally, our ancestors visit us and minister to us.
That's right.
Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
In the midst of the ritual. And implore us to continue the fight.
That's right.
Ritualization Aguan. When that aspect of the ritual is done, last year, could be different every year, but last year, what we engaged in following the ancestral energy was combat training. You're not hearing what I'm saying? I said we engaged in combat training, capoeira, wrestling, mixed martial arts, and firearms training. This is in the context of a ritual now. Y'all don't hear what I'm saying, you know? Not, when we finish, yeah? That's a ritual. Preparing ourselves in the skills that we need to continue the work that we need to do.
That's right.
It's not just, let's get possessed by the spirit of the ancestors. Wake up and feel rejuvenated, levitating. Yes? No, work off a guan after this. So we need training.
Yeah.
Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
And that is what our ancestors, a knowledge of our ancestors, will inspire us to do. A lot is taking place in the Pan-African world, brothers and sisters.
That's right.
And one of the best things that we can, one of the best ways that I know, that I commune with my ancestors, is to study them. I was featuring on Brother Mobali Makassi, a French-speaking brother show the other day. And he asked me, how is it that you stay motivated? I don't know. People ask me this question all the time. I don't know how to answer it, except to say I am possessed by the ancestors. Yeah? I don't know. And I'm being honest, I don't know how to answer this question. But all I know is when I study Patrice Lumumba, and I study Malcolm X, and I study Fanon, and I recognize the amount of sacrifice that they had to go through just so I can receive a modicum of not having to deal with some of what they went through. When I study Nomzama Madikizela Winnie Mandela and what she had to sacrifice. When I study, brothers and sisters, Dedan Kimati and Pierre Molele of the Congo, and the fact that they decided to battle and challenge the most brutal forces within the entire world, knowing that their lives were at stake. I just cannot do nothing with that sacrifice. I'm just being real. That's what it is for me. And that is what Africa Liberation Day calls upon us to do.
That's right. That's right.
Not just to remember and be able to recite. Malcolm X was born on such, thus and so forth date and died on thus and so forth date, etc., etc., etc. But to redouble the thing.
That's right.
And continue to organize with the benefit of what they taught us, updating the program for the now and galvanizing the masses of our people in the process. Let us use Africa Liberation Day. Let us use the centenary of the celebration of the birthdays of Omowale Malcolm X, Papa Patrice Lumumba, and Frantz Fanon to educate ourselves, re-inspire ourselves, and rededicate ourselves to this mission. Tenda Mwadi.
Yeah, them. Come on, brothers and sisters. Come on, come on, come on. Tendai Mwari. I'm sure.